Hi guys, how's it going? It's Alan here, and today we're back here with a game with My Name Is You, and it's the only unusual thing in my life. Now this is like a psychological game. I don't know whether it's a horror or not, but we'll find out in momentarily. That being said, let's click new story and see what we can do.
I suppose I will start at the very beginning.
At least there's voice acting. I have to click? Yeah, I do. Okay.
Chapter 1. Once upon a time, there lived you. Despite his unusual name, his life was hardly any different from others. It was an unusually usual day when he was getting ready to go to work. 2 hours of sleep. What a formality, he said to himself, glancing at his watch. He was used to working at night, just as he was used to never having days off. That morning, the buttons on his shirt were fastened faster than usual. This was not by chance. The tear-off calendar boldly declared Friday, April 3rd.
Day before Rez.
It reminded him that there were only 3 work days before his holiday, and there was no room for mistakes. His room in a communal apartment was not very big, so it did not take him long to pack. Having got dressed, he quietly walked past the neighbors' rooms into the hallway. Somebody was snoring loudly in the furthest room, which caused you to smile for some reason.
Turn this up a bit.
He walked up to the front door and accidentally stepped on a pile of letters. Picking up the envelopes, he saw his name on one of them. You automatically put it in his pocket and walked out. The thought that next Sunday, a huge stone would be removed from the entrance to the crypt of his existence by the power of labor legislation kept you going.
I'm gonna read the letter to make sure it's not important.
Glancing at the address line, a chill went through Yu's body for a split second. From Darina. Yu was confused by the seal on the envelope, indicating the place of departure. No leave grad.
Okay.
Is she really coming back to Cannot? Yu wondered. Dear Yu, my doctor's suspicions are confirmed. I have the same disease that struck you. I thought it over and decided that we need to break up. It may seem that things like that should bring people closer, but it would be unfair to myself. We can have our last date on the morning of April 3rd in the Seafront Cafe, and then I will leave Cannot and go abroad.
Wow, dumping us through a letter.
He felt dizzy.
So either go to work or go to the cafe. Go to the cafe. See if we can sort things out.
Although Yu suffered from excessive hypochondria, he really had an incurable illness. He clearly remembered the day when he heard the diagnosis. Since that moment, he stopped counting new birthmarks on his body. He seemed shaken up after reading the letter, but not surprised.
I'm not too sure what this is. The condition.
He tried to squeeze out a tear to see if he was still capable of showing emotions. Alas, he just welled up a little. Yu decided that it was because he had drunk a large amount of coffee. which dehydrated his already dried up body. Approaching the seafront, he tried to spot Darina. It did not take him long to find her. There she was, at the cafe table. She probably had no clue how much he appreciated her starting the conversation. Usually, you are late.
I'm not saying anything.
I am tired. I hope you understand me. But he did not. Having overcome his anxiety, he squeezed out a handful of words.
Ask her to stay. Agree with parting. He seems to care, so you could always try and ask at least.
Do not go away. Let's try once more. Too late. I have put up with my life for the sake of old age. Now, there will be no old age. There had always been a gap of misunderstanding between them. He had embraced his illness long ago, and resignedly yielded to his ailment with a loud, "Make yourself at home." It seemed that he had become closer to his illness than to Darina. He got distracted thinking about himself and missed her meaning. Reflections on how to rebuild his life from the very beginning prevailed over the others. He was not ready to renew his relationship with himself, so he mentally grasped at the crumbles of the past seeping through his crucified palms. I am sorry. I have made my decision. I do not know why I arranged this meeting. She paid for the bill and left.
That's gonna be hard.
Yu froze in place, at first not daring to say anything, and then resigned himself to the role of a scapegoat thrown into the unknown. For some reason, he saw something noble in their breakup. Yu was sure that he went to work immediately after the meeting, but when he came to his senses, he realized that he was on an unfamiliar street, cloaked by dusk. Despite the fact that the street seemed to be deserted, he felt someone's heavy presence. Turning to a rustle behind his back, Yu impaled his chest on a knife, squeezed in the hands of a long familiar figure. Greetings from the past.
The hell?
Whether from pain or surprise, Yu could not utter a single word. The murderer carefully took out the blade and laid your motionless body on the ground.
Oh, we got killed then.
Blood flowed through the cold mosaic of paved stones. The corners of Yu's mouth spread.
Achievement unlocked. Greetings from the past. The end. Now I know there are 10 endings to this game, so no, that's not going to be the end. I'm not too sure how long this game's supposed to be though. Try again.
I suppose I... Chapter...
Let's skip past all this.
Despite... It wasn't a... He was... This... His room,
I think I could have went to chapters at this point now that I think about it.
having got dressed, he walked up to the front door and
Yeah, we know.
the thought
Okay, hurry to work.
The trip to work took him by several blocks. He considered early morning to be an extremely pleasant time of day. Universal euphoria. Although, euphoria usually precedes inevitable death. As soon as he went into the park, he saw a kid in ragged clothes running away from a pack of stray dogs. His eyes caught a swiftly ticking clock hand.
I'm gonna help. I know we're probably more than likely gonna get killed from this again, but I want to see what happens.
Even though Yu had been scared of dogs since childhood, he was going to run to the kid's aid. But the latter stumbled and fell down on the pavement, and the dogs lost all interest in him. Yu had nothing to do with the outcome of events, but he was filled with pride for his desire to help the boy that he did not even know. It made him come up to the kid, who was sitting on the ground with a bloody knee and a toothless smile, not because of the fall, but due to his age. Yu was about to give the kid a handkerchief with his initials on it when he noticed it had fresh traces of his own blood. So he just asked, "Can I do something for you?"
Thank you, sir. I am okay. They did not mean to hurt me.
Are you sure about that? They were chasing you down the street.
At that moment, Yu saw his boss in the distance and hurried to work, shouting a quick, "Be careful," over his shoulder. On the way to the office, the thought about how strange it felt to be addressed as Sir bounced around in his head. Although he had passed a 30-year-old milestone, he felt closer to the kid with a bloody knee than to sirs of any kind, even the least important of them. Yu went up 3 flights of stairs and found himself on the top floor. It was the office of the insurance company where he worked. The door was unlocked. Was he late? He tried to walk in, but was stopped by a stranger.
Oh no, we're gonna get killed again, are we?
"Wait! Where are you going?" Before Yu could give a proper response to the cad, his boss came up the stairs, struggling to catch his breath, and did it himself. "Let him in." They both entered the office, and the boss walked Yu to his desk, where he explained the situation to him in private. "That is Frank, my distant relative. He needs to do an internship, so he is going to work here for a while."
Okay.
"As who?" "As a security guard." To avoid any further questions, the boss turned around and went to his office. "An internship as a security guard in an insurance company, fitting in 2 rooms. Ridiculous. If I was blessed with a writing talent, I would definitely immortalize this," Yu thought. Yu got down to some clerical work. Yu found a moment and took the morning letter out of his pocket. Glancing at the address line, a chill went through Yu's body for a split second. From Dorina.
Okay, so this is where we're reading the letter again.
Yu was confused by the seal on the envelope, indicating the place of departure. No leave grad. "Is she really coming back to Kenot?" he said out loud. Suddenly, there was a curious voice saying, "Who is coming?" Yu did not answer and continued reading. "Dear Yu, my doctor's suspicions are confirmed. I have the same disease that struck you. I thought it over and decided that we need to break up. It may seem that something like this should bring people closer, but it would be unfair to myself. We can have our last date on the morning of April 3rd in the Seafront Cafe. And then I will leave Cannot and go abroad. He felt dizzy.
Go to the cafe or stay at work? I'll go to the cafe and then choose the second option I didn't choose.
You hurried to the cafe.
If again I have to click the button.
It is uncertain whether he actually wanted to find her there or hope for the opposite. One way or another, when he was in the appointed place, Darina was not there.
Okay, so you missed it.
All emotions left you in an instant. He saw the kid on the porch of the cafe veranda. The kid was looking at him, squinting in an odd way. Why are you squinting?
I am not. I mean, I closed my eye on purpose. Go ahead. Close one eye.
You covered his right eye with his hand to humor the kid.
Feels strange. Do not open. I did it to remember about the mercy that life bestows on us.
What are you talking about?
You get used to having just one eye, and then it turns out you have another. Or here's another thing. Hold your breath.
Hold your breath. One of the endings. Okay. I'm not quite sure if that was a good or a bad ending there. So we've got 2 endings so far of the potential 10. I don't know if there's actually only just one chapter or not. Okay, so I can't actually click chapters. Okay, we're not actually on the chapter, that's probably why. Okay, so you gotta skip it like this as normal. I was gonna read a letter and then let her go. See if that makes any good endings or not. Cause I know the game pretty much wants me to stay at work.
His room. Have it.
I'm pretty sure that's the way it's going, because it tells you to stay on track at work, but I want to see what the other endings have to offer.
Glancing. You was. Is she? Dear. He felt.
Okay, go to the cafe.
Although you. He clearly. Since.
Also, we could read the letter and then go to work. Wonder if that would change the story at any point.
You. Approaching this. It did not. She. Usually.
Okay, it's not saying anything.
But.
I agree with the parting this time.
He seemed to be ready for such an outcome, and did not hold a grudge against her. Nodding goodbye to her, you hurried to work. He was almost there when he saw his boss enter the office building. He took it as his personal failure, although his watch showed that he still had several minutes.
So we did get here in time.
You had barely got into the office when he noticed 2 male silhouettes behind him. He turned around and saw his boss and a man he had never seen before, a little further away. To avoid unnecessary explanations, you took a badge from his table and pointed to it. Yes, despite the fact that there was no live communication with clients, the work charter required to wear a name tag, probably to remember your name.
I think I know how to remember my name.
Wow, that's a very unusual name. Nice to meet you. It is the only unusual detail of my life. awkward pause hung in the air. The boss standing behind Frank frowned and cast a reproachful glance at you.
Frank is our security guard starting today.
Oh, we have nothing to.
A security guard. Some of my important documents are missing.
There are only two of us. What kind of documents?
That I cannot tell you.
Fair enough.
You mean you suspect me?
No, I do not.
Eliminating any opportunity to continue the conversation, the boss turned around and went into his office. The room plunged into silence. You got down to some clerical work. You was sitting at his sturdy desk, imagining again and again how the shelves, stocked with books on jurisprudence, would break loose due to their own weight from friable concrete and break his head. Allowing himself a little break, you took his diary from his table drawer and made a note. I never took a plate of soup at school lunches, even when I really wanted to. I was afraid to spill it in front of everyone, but I could put it on the table, which seems to be my life's pattern.
Same.
Feeling some satisfaction from writing that, he resumed work. There was a rustle of the janitor's broom and the trill of birds outside the window. More accurate than the clock, you thought. Chapter 2.
Alright, nice. We made it.
On the second day of work, every sip of coffee came out of his nose as blood.
Nice.
Covering his nose with his hand, you went to the restroom. Excuse me. I wish I could narrate a little faster and keep you from getting bored, but it is difficult in my condition. Let's continue.
I thought that was you
Returning
coughing
to his
then.
workplace, you saw Frank sitting at his table and leafing through his personal diary. Such violation of personal boundaries, it seemed, was about to put you out of temper.
Ask him to give it back, snatch it back. Probably snatch it.
You gripped his diary and unexpectedly for himself pushed Frank to the wall, knocking a chair out from under him. The
I didn't think
shelves
that was
above
gonna
his
happen.
desk shook and fell on Frank, lying in a fetal position, covering his head with his hands. You did not hear the sound of the shelves falling. There was nothing but inner noise in his head. Engulfed with righteous anger,
Like Crimson
you stood
Stream.
over the defeated guard. The holes from the missing parquet boards under his head were slowly filled with crimson stream.
Alright, so just battered a kid. Alright, so that's another bad ending, I guess. Alright, chapters. So start with chapter 2 again.
Chapter 2. On the second day of work, every sip of...
Okay, we'll skip past all this. We've already done it before.
Let's continue. Returning... Such
There you go, ask him to give it back.
Give it to me.
That's not asking, that's telling, but still.
Here, take it. I was curious. In a moment, you hid his diary in the drawer of his desk. I am sorry if I offended you. The incident seemed to be over, but Frank's intrusive nature got the better of him. Can I ask you a question?
Why does everyone in your notes die?
Could try and open up a bit, I guess.
Perhaps the lack of communication affected you. Unexpectedly for himself, he answered the question directly.
Okay.
I'm not sure, but it seems to me that the desire to kill a self-protagonist in the text takes root in the desire to alienate the described situations from a real self.
You said it as if he had prepared an answer to this question a long time ago. Or, at least he had thought about it before. Silence set in. Frank was embarrassed by his answer and tried to look understanding.
Well, more likely that it is just easier to kill.
The office phone rang.
Well, I gotta answer the call, innit?
As soon as you came up to the phone, the ringing stopped.
Alright, they waited long.
He barely returned to his desk when the phone rang again. As soon as you came up to the phone, the ringing stopped. He barely returned to his desk when the phone rang
What's
again.
going on here?
As soon as you came up to the phone, the ringing stopped.
You're just gonna keep repeating then?
He barely returned to his desk when the phone rang again.
Do it one more time if it does the same thing.
As soon as you came up to the
Yeah, okay, so it's gonna give me the same outcome, so I may as well just ignore it then.
The ringing bored into his skull. You was buzzing together with the receiver. You involuntarily took off, but his head started spinning, and he was seeing dark spots. Holding onto the railing, you slid down the stairs and jumped out onto the street. He ran into his boss at the door, who stood there smoking.
Go to bed now. You can give me the rest of the papers tomorrow.
He did not have any strength left to work anyway. Although he left some things in the office, you was not in a hurry to go back. He sat down on the doorstep to rest. His vision was not particularly keen on the second day, so it took him a while to recognize a familiar face. You livened a little. A welcoming grin appeared on his face.
Hi, Max. Why are you not at work?
I dismissed my students a little early. How are you feeling?
As usual, another night shift.
If I was your father, I would have fired you long ago.
Why?
What will be left for me then?
Max answered with a question.
Do you want me to take your shift?
No, thank you.
No, thank you.
You quickly said goodbye and left. He heard some painful coughing behind his back, and his lips let out a grin of satisfaction. Coming home, you could barely stand on his feet. Notwithstanding his lack of sleep and fatigue, he could not fall asleep.
Know the feeling.
Day flashed in his head on repeat. As for the breakup, he did not see himself as the victim. On the contrary, the entire time during his relationship with Darina, you wondered,
Why did she love him? Drained of all strength and weak in spirit from birth.
he did not anymore. Dizziness and pain subsided. At some point, he even thought about calling a doctor, just to make sure that he was still alive. But sleep took its toll.
Chapter 3.
Well, at least we didn't die in this one. Well, technically we
The
did.
alarm went off.
Uh-oh. Okay, if we meant
He
fire
faced
alarm
a
then.
new day with weakness in his legs and a throbbing headache. All night long, he had been haunted by a painfully familiar nightmare. However, when he woke up, all tangible images dissolved, leaving only a nasty precipitate. His body led him to the kitchen in search of caffeine. Despite the early hours, he found his boss there.
Okay.
How are you feeling?
Well, more likely shit.
You heard the question, but ignored it because of his sleepy state. How difficult is it to answer?
I know, it was a bit rude on that one.
You was pleased to hear the words of concern, even coming that way. I'm sorry, Father. A cup in Yu's hand inevitably filled with bloody coffee. You look like shit. I feel like it. I do not want to lose my last son, even someone like you.
Ah, cheers, Dad.
His father had his old wool suit on and was about to leave for work. You do not have to go to the office today. Get some rest.
We need to work though, don't we? I think that's what the game wants us to do.
You did not tell anyone about this, but I am going to tell you confidentially.
Okay.
He believed that the disease manifested itself most fiercely when he went to bed. That was why you did not like sleep. His night fantasies became crazier with time. Every dream seemed to him a step closer to insanity. In order to control himself, he regularly looked at his hands and at the clock hands. He walked out of the door and noticed a stranger near the opposite house. That stranger was an identical copy of you, as if his long-lost twin.
So we're hallucinating now.
You froze and watched him. The door was half open, and he saw a pretty girl and a little boy, probably the same age as the kid, behind it. The newly appeared copy of you smiled, said goodbye to his family, and disappeared.
Fine, a double. Let's go to work for now.
You like to alter his route to work every now and then. He would walk through the park, or that patio, or the arch, by which he used to run so often. All that in order to somehow distinguish between days. Otherwise, everything merged into one endless stream. He remembered that it was the last working day before the holiday when he came up to the office door. Entering the office, you noticed that Frank was not there. He grinned at that maliciously for some reason.
Okay.
He found a new batch of documents on his table. Pinning his name tag on his jacket, you got to work. The work did not take as much time on the last working day. He
Hey, we're in the
easily
holidays
sorted
soon,
out
aren't we?
insurance files and, like a clerical deity, decided the client's fate, deciding who was to receive payments and who had mutilated himself with the purpose of deception. Having gone through most of the papers, he came across an extremely familiar storyline. Insurance form, life insurance, Form 42, fractures, serious illness, and death. Insurance does not cover self-inflicted injuries, self-inflicted infection, or suicide. Date of insurance, March 29th. Date of death, April 5th. Insurance sum, 203,500 coins. Salary, 15,000 coins.
The client was an insurance agent. He bought a train ticket, later to be found under its wheels. Witness testimonies varied. According to some testimonies, he was pushed down onto the track. According to the other, he stumbled. Since the gap between the date of insurance and the date of death was so small, there was a note in the file indicating a suspected suicide. All risks were borne by the office that makes the final decision.
Oh no. So some people say he was pushed, other people said he jumped. Probably decline? I don't know.
You refused the insurance payout, figuring he had guessed the man's motives correctly. What guided him when making such a decision?
Not a clue.
Did he evoke his sense of justice, arrogance, selfishness, or maybe envy? His desktop got empty. He completed his work earlier than planned. Yet, he was dissatisfied. He felt that he had missed something. Not knowing what to do with himself, he went to his boss's office. He politely knocked a couple times on the door and appeared before his father.
Is there anything else to do?
Is there anything else to do? If you have processed the final papers, then you need to fill out the statements. Yes, I have. Wait, has your holiday just started? Look at the time. It is the end of the workday. You can go. I would like to help some more. Look at you. You could use some help yourself.
Achievement unlocked. To work.
Maybe this will help.
He mumbled to himself, picking up a folder with the statements and walking out.
No, I think that's the ending I should be getting with based on the music. Sweet. I guess I'm going to be in this one here. I know there's a few endings I haven't gotten yet, but that should give you the opportunity to download this game if you want to play it for yourself. But I'm going to be leaving this one here. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Hopefully enough to leave a like on it. And that being said, take care guys. Thank you so much for watching.